So you're selective in who you take on as clients. Okay, that is a good segue into Section 8, rental property strategies. So tell me some rental property strategies you've found to be successful and maybe a couple unsuccessful ones for Property 8 or for Section 8.
Yeah, so I would say about 50% of our management portfolio right now is Section 8 properties, and that we've developed a really strong competitive advantage in terms of how we deal with the government in administering the Section 8 vouchers.
Yeah, can you break that down for me, Eric? Because it is a very, very interesting space. So are you saying that properties you own are Section 8 or properties you manage for clients are Section 8? And then kind of what is your process? Because I have a friend, shout out Marcus Kurth. He's in Tennessee and he was dealing in, he's mostly in Nashville now, but he was in Memphis. And he was dealing with a tremendous amount of Section 8 clients. And what his process is, and I'm going to have him here in a couple weeks, and he can break it down further. But as I understand it, he would buy the property, renovate the property, have people apply through his process, and then help them in so many ways get approved for Section 8, and then place them into his property. Have you heard of anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that's a pretty decent overview of what the process looks like. So yeah, we both own and we manage properties on other people's behalf for Section 8 tenants. Our strategy really started during COVID because we were afraid of people not paying rent. There was this whole moratorium on evictions. So market rate tenants were pretty intimidating at the time, whereas a Section 8 tenant typically 80 to 90% of the monthly rent comes from a government sponsored voucher, and that the tenant's individual responsibility is usually only a few $100s. So people, if your contribution to rent each month is $250, you're going to find a way to pay that. That's not a bill that you're going to stiff. So I was initially drawn to it for the security. I have found that it can be insanely lucrative in specific locations, that basically the housing voucher amounts are not determined based on market rent, but that they're determined based on the supply-demand imbalance of how many people have vouchers who are looking in this area versus how many units are available. So we have, the bulk of our holdings are in 3 specific zip codes where the Section 8 vouchers are 150% of the market rent. So it's where a 3-bedroom may normally rent for $3,500, we can rent that 3-bedroom for upwards of $5,000 a month.
So you're getting more money per capita than the market, and the rental income is more secure because it's mostly coming from the feds.
Correct. And the average tenancy is way longer. I mean, it is very challenging to get a landlord to accept a Section 8 tenant. So once they get into a space, that they never leave.
So you have lower turnover.
I would guess our average tenancy will be 5 to 10 years.
Wow.
Whereas, a market rate tenant, I think it's 18 months.
That's amazing. And how much, tell me some of the downsides.
I mean, the primary downside is the leasing is much slower. So if I get a 3-bedroom and I put it on the open market at market rent, I'm going to fill that unit in a weekend. There's a housing shortage in San Diego. There's tons of qualified people looking for housing. Section 8, due to the bureaucratic nature of dealing with the housing authority, it can take upwards of 6 weeks. From the time that you have a tenant, the tenant likes the house, I like the tenant, everyone's ready to go. It may take the government 6 weeks to approve that housing voucher, and that it's a very frustrating and bureaucratic process dealing with the housing authority, and that we just through basically a war of attrition have been able to optimize our process. But I would say for a brand new landlord getting into it, it's going to be very daunting.
It's a heavy lift, as are most things that are lucrative. Tell me about what would be the first steps for a landlord if they wanted to get into the Section 8 space? Would you recommend it?
I mean, I would say that contacting Palm Tree Properties to manage the property for you is going to be a profitable endeavor, just because when it comes to determining the rent, you have to complete what's called a rent reasonable study, which is where you give comparable rentals to the housing authority for them to conduct an informal appraisal on how much the rent should be. And I have my own proprietary database of all of our units at the highest rents. So I can get rent much higher than you could or anyone else who is starting today could. So to utilize a management company that has experience in the space would probably be the best first start.
That's awesome, dude. And the people can reach you. We're going to put all of Eric's information in the description for Palm Tree. Okay, so the building and property management business, we talked about that. We talked about Section 8. And then getting into lending. So you're now operating as a PML.
Yeah, so I do private mortgage loans. Yeah, I would say it's like very much a side business for me, that my main day-to-day is running this management company and tending to my own investment portfolio. But with the interest rates being higher for longer, I found a great opportunity in originating private loans. We have found a niche mostly in doing second trust deeds for people who are building ADUs.
That's how you and I met.
Which is how you and I met. So what I see right now is there's a ton of people who got really great mortgages during COVID at super low interest rates. And to do a traditional cash out refinance, you'd have to give up that super compelling low rate on your first. So a second mortgage makes a lot more sense. However, there's not a lot of people who play in the second mortgage space. Most of them are super expensive or they're super bureaucratic. So my LP, which is called Easy Loans, does second mortgages, and I am just literally lending my own money. So the process is incredibly simple. I did a loan out in La Mesa. I met the guy at the property. In 20 minutes, I told him that it was approved. We didn't order an appraisal. We didn't do anything. It's just, from my intimate understanding of the market, from my brokerage business, I can sort of choose and pick the loans that I want to make.
So if you guys are out there and you're looking for seconds, Eric and I talked in some depth about this. He is looking for really good properties with low LTVs if possible, but he's making the call, and he's a very sophisticated investor. As you can see, he knows the market really well. So it's basically on him to say yay or nay, and he's lending his own capital, and then he's able to turn that over. And he also has some investors as well if needed. So reach out to Eric. There's a lot of people in this space that are looking for seconds. As he alluded to, some of those COVID firsts are in the 2s, mid 3s, even low 4s. And a lot of people don't want to touch them, but they do want to build ADUs. So,
and I would say, to add to that, what will make your application a lot more compelling is if you're working with someone like Jonathan and that you have a game plan in terms of building this ADU. I am really quick to underwrite deals. I can get back to you within, a matter of hours. However, I'm super selective. And one of the reasons that people get turned down is that they are not working with a professional company. They don't have their permits. Is that I would really say the ideal borrower for me is someone who is engaged. Jonathan is very close to getting their permits and is ready to start, construction within 30 days of funding.
I love that. So some of the soft costs, some of the heavy lifts already been done. Some of the risk mitigation measures are in place, and you're a lot more confident that this project is going to be brought to fruition, and your money is going to be safer.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I'm not in the foreclosure business. I'm in the collecting interest and getting paid off business. So
sounds just like JP Morgan.
I want everyone to be successful in the deal. So yeah, if you're interested in talking about a second, feel free to reach out to me. We can. We don't approve most applications, but we're super quick to get back to you.
I love that. Okay, this is the segue that we're going to move into of the segment called the Line Skip Hack segment. So it's basically, it can be as many as you want. Generally, it's 1 to 2, sometimes 3. Line skip hacks that, Eric, if you looking back on your career, you wish you would have known that. Or there's a young Eric out there who's aspiring to be where you are, own a bunch of real estate, manage that real estate, have made a bunch of money selling and transacting in the real estate space, and running his own brokerage, and able to move the way he wants to move financially from something that he built. There's a young Eric out there. What are some line skip hacks you would share for that aspiring Eric or Erica?
I think back, there was moments earlier on in my career where I would get really frustrated with people not committing to having a meeting with me. And I would literally just show up at their office and sit there in the waiting room until they would take a meeting with me. And, if the receptionist told me they were busy, I'd say, this is fine. And I'd grab the magazine. I'd start reading the magazine in the lobby. And so I guess my line skip hack is that sometimes you just have to go. Just get in your car and go and find the person and meet with them. And if they don't want to meet with you, tell them you're going to meet with me anyways. And just having a level of pushiness that makes you uncomfortable. I mean, obviously, don't be too aggressive, but if you are not stepping out of your comfort zone to make the meeting happen, you're probably not working hard enough. So
I love that.
Yeah, no, line skip hack is get the in-person meeting no matter what, and the worst thing that's going to happen is you'll embarrass yourself.
I am a trained door knocker. Did you know that?
I know that now.
That was difficult because I consider myself really good at sales, Eric. And learning how to knock doors and walking through that uncomfortability is a process. And then when you start getting wins from it, right? And you get better at it, and then your momentum starts to grow and you don't have to do it as much, it was always worth it. But we were talking about grit earlier. There's a lot of people that are not willing to walk through that feeling of discomfort. And so they generally, we hope they can make it another way, but there's no substitute for hard work. I love that. Okay, line skip hack number 2, Eric.
Line skip hack number 2 is always, I would say, just find the people who have done what you want to do and go ask them how they did it. And there's sort of this perception that people are so close to the chest with their secrets and that, oh, they would never help me. When it's very flattering when people reach out to you and want to know your secrets. And people reach out to me and I give them super valuable information for free on people I've never met. And I would say that I gained a lot of early insight by just sort of tracking down the people who are having success and just saying, tell me what you are doing differently than everyone else, and just not being afraid to admit that you don't know everything, and find the people who do and just ask them.
Man, that's so good. I love that, dude. Those are 2 valuable line skip hacks coming from somebody that's done it, that's earned it, and is still doing it. Number 1 was, don't be afraid to feel some discomfort. Go get that meeting. If that person could potentially be a well for you and be a life changer in your career and in your life, do what it takes to get that meeting. And the number 2, ask questions. You don't know the answer, it still has to do with discomfort. No one wants to look or feel stupid, right? But how badly do you want to know that answer? And how much could that answer propel your career forward if you gained it? And Eric said, hey, I'm the kind of guy that someone asks me a question, I'm flattered because I've earned the right to essentially be able to share that information, and I want to. And, look, sometimes people are going to say no. Sometimes people are going to say they're too busy. But Steve Jobs said he's never reached out to someone. I saw a video about him the other day, and he said he's never reached out to someone that when he's really needed help, that hasn't helped him. And so, yeah, I mean, look, you're going to get rejected in this game. It's sales. You're going to get rejected in business. It's a part of it. But if you do these things over time, you're going to get wins. And when it's all said and done and it's all she wrote, you're not going to remember those L's. You forget about them.
No, yeah, one success will outshine 100 defeats. And honestly, in retrospect, once you've had the success, the defeats seem comical.
Tiny.